So I would like to introduce the second speaker. It's Dominik Pantůček, aka Joe from Plastica, and he will talk about using elliptic curves on web and the situation nowadays.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Dominik, so-called Joe Pantůček from Plastica, as Philip already has introduced me. Originally when I was asked to give some talk at this conference, I was thinking, well, I completely screwed up my talk at Cryptography regarding elliptic curves. Okay, I didn't screw it up, but most of the people just fell asleep. So I'll try to make this talk a bit more entertaining, and maybe the key would be not to dig too deep into this subject. I like to look at how you can use ECC on the internet today, and why you should use it. Originally, I thought I'll have limited time, so I'll talk only about the web. But I think there are other interesting areas where you can encounter ECC. So finally, my talk is about elliptic cryptography and the internet. Let's get the party started. What is EC? I think that's the first and foremost question we have to answer. It stands for elliptic curve. What does that mean? What is an elliptic curve? It's a one-dimensional object in a two-dimensional plane. I don't think there are many people here with strong algebraic background. So let's just say it's an object which has certain nice properties. First and foremost, it really looks nice. I prepared two examples here. You can see two elliptic curves. You can just stare at them for the rest of the talk and it will be enough. Okay, maybe that will make you sleep. So let's look at other interesting properties of these curves. They form so-called one-dimensional abelian variety. Wow, that's certainly a complex term. What does that mean? It only says that we can look at the curve as a set of points, and we can define some interesting operations with these points on the curve, mainly addition and multiplication by some natural value like 1, 2, 3, or whatever. This itself is, as I said, interesting, but it's not enough for using the elliptic curves in cryptography. What do we need? We need to constrain the values to some range where we can work with them. To put it in some bit buckets like 128 bits or something like that. So what we do, we project the elliptic curve over a two-dimensional finite field, and what do we get? We get an abelian group, which is basically the same as the variety, but we have constrained the values to some well-known range, and also it has some other properties which we might use later on. What is ECC? I just described what an elliptic curve means. ECC is, here we go, sorry. ECC is elliptic curve cryptography. What's that? That basically is just cryptography, where you use elliptic curves as the building blocks of cryptographic primitives. That's all. It's a public key cryptography system which leverages the fact that I mentioned earlier, that they form the abelian group. And with this abelian group, you get three important operations you can do. And I guess there are not many people in this room who understand fully what I'm talking about right now. Who does have a university degree in advanced mathematics here? Can someone show me hand? Awesome! Perfect! So this is gonna be fun. But for the rest of you, you're interested only in three main things. First, you can define point addition on the curve projected over a two-dimensional finite field. And basically, you should know how how it works. For the smooth variant, for the non-finite field version, you just say, well, we have 2 points, we connect them with a straight line, and where this line crosses the elliptic curve is the negative of the resulting point, so just flip it over the x-axis. And that's it, you got addition. It's defined similarly for the abelian group over the 2-dimensional finite field, but you can imagine it as a picture. You just have to work with the numbers. That's not a problem because computers work with numbers, so I think it will be usable. What's the problem? The main problem here is what to do with this definition of addition if you try to add two points which are actually the same point together. As you know, as you probably know, if you have a 2-dimensional point, you can run a straight line through it and it can go in any direction. So we do a little trick here. We use a tangent line, tangent to the elliptic curve. And then again, we got point duplication. So you can say that there's a point B, which we got by summing 2 points A. So with these 2 operations, it's easy to derive the third operation, and that means multiplication of point by a scalar value. Because we have point addition and we have point duplication, we can easily multiply any point by a given number. You just have to do it in several steps. For example, if you want to multiply point A by 7, you first multiply it by 2, then this duplication you multiply again by 2, and you get 4 times A. You add to it 2 times A, and you add to it A, and there you go. You got multiplication. Why is it so interesting, and why I spend so much time talking about it? Because although there's multiplication, there's no, how would we call it, division. It's called the discrete logarithm problem on the Eliptic-curve group, and basically it says that if you have 2 points, A and B, and you know that you get the point B by multiplying point A by a certain number, you cannot calculate the number, and that's it. Well, you may try, but good luck with that. So, now we know what elliptic curves are, what is elliptic curve cryptography, okay, you get some introduction, and the third main question we have to ask is, why should we care? Because, you know, RSA works well, the DSA sort of works well if you choose sufficiently random numbers, and, you know, things like Philip was talking about. So why should we care? There are 2 main reasons why we really should care. First, the security parameter. The bigger, the better. Although there seems to be no spam arriving into my inbox promising security parameter enlargement yet. What does that mean? If you browse the web, you usually come to statements like 8-bit security is roughly 1024-bit RSA. What does it mean? It means, the security parameter means how hard is to brute force the security primitive we are trying to use. So for example, with this 1024-bit RSA, it takes roughly 2 raised to the power 80 attempts, brute force attempts to break the RSA and to calculate the private part of the key from the public part. So that's it, security. What about the other thing? Size. The smaller, the better, at least in online communication. I think it's getting more and more important because with buzzword Internet of Things and always connected and things like that, you need to have applications which work in constrained environments and use sometimes high latency connections or slow connections. I know we are here in the capital of Czech Republic. 4G everywhere. I'm sorry, except for this place. There's only edge sometimes here. Okay, so if I want to establish a secure connection from here, the size does matter, because using edge, it really has high latencies, and if you have to do lots of retransmissions, it's a problem. And you know, the thing where you use the public key cryptography is mostly at the beginning of secure sessions, at the beginning of TLS connections and things like that. So you wait, and then maybe the connection gets established. So that's why size matters, and the smaller is better. Because with 1024-bit RSA, every value, every key, everything you need to transfer is 128 bytes long. I'm looking bytes here, not bits, bytes. So that's really a problem, because during the key exchange, and especially during the authentication phase, for example, if you have a long certificate chain, for every public key, every signature, you need to transfer at least 128 bytes, and I'm talking about 80-bit security, 1024-bit RSA keys here. So that's something that's nowadays, I think, substandard. So why should we care about elliptic-curve cryptography here with these things on our minds? First, the security parameter is pretty high compared to the bit size we have used. It is usually about n-half. That means typically if you're using 256-bit elliptic-curve cryptography, you get a security parameter of 128 for free. Usually, when you are working with the public points on the curves, you need two coordinates. As I said, anyway, those are two-dimensional objects. You have x coordinate and the y coordinate. But because of certain things beneath, you usually only need one coordinate. And with this so-called compressed coordinate, you save some space. But in order to be sure that you calculate the other one correctly, sometimes one bit of the other coordinate is transferred as well. That gives us, you can see it for yourself, 33 bytes per value, key or something else, for 128-bit security. Compare that to the 80-bit security with RSA. It's really much better value for given price. So I think we can agree, or at least I can make you agree, that we should care about ECC. So what do we have available? First, we have to look at the curves that are available to us, and you can use any curve you can imagine. But I would stick to the advice Philip gave us. Do not try to invent your own. Just use the standardized ones. I think it's really for the best. You get curves standardized by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. That's a US government company, organization. That has certain implications, but I think we can live with that. You get the Standards for Efficient Cryptography group, which also devised quite a few standardized curves. And if you're paranoid, you can go independent. But once again, do not try it on your own. Better trust someone who can do that. And in this case, it's Daniel J. Bernstein and his team. We'll look at their curves later on. What's there next? Yeah. When you decide which curves you want to use, there's a good question how you can use them and for what. First, authentication. There's this ECDSA algorithm, which is basically, as the abbreviation says, elliptic-curve based digital signature algorithm. It's really nice, but it has the same problems as the plain DSA, which means if you use nonce twice, you're screwed. And actually, this is the cause of the successful attack on ES3 mentioned because it was used improperly. Then you got encryption. As I mentioned, elliptic-curve cryptography is about public key cryptography, and so in case of encryption, we use it mainly for key exchange. That is, we use elliptic-curve variant of Diffie-Hellman exchange, or its ephemeral variant, which generates a new public point for every connection and should give you perfect forward secrecy. I don't want to dive into the details, but I think I should make an exception here. We may have a quick look how ECDH works, and those of you who already know how DH works, you will probably see that it's generally the same thing. First, you have to agree on the parameters. The P is some prime number which dominates the two-dimensional finite field you want to use. Oh, wait, you don't have to worry about that, because if you choose a curve, a standardized curve, it's written there what P you should use. Then there are the parameters A and B. Once again, you shouldn't choose your own, you should use standardized, and they are there. Then you have to choose some point, it's called generator of the group, and basically you can choose whichever point you want, but there are some restrictions. There are certain points you can't use, but once again, if you stick to the standard and choose the point according to the standard, you should be safe here. And some number n, which basically limits the range of your private number, private key. Once again, in elliptic-curve cryptography, the private key is just a number, plain number. The public keys are points on the curve. There's some strange flickering on the LCD. Hope it's okay. Okay, so we've got we generate key pairs, the standard Alice and Bob thing. DA and DB are their secret keys, and just some random number smaller than n. They calculate the public points QA and QB by multiplying their secret number with the group generator, and they exchange the calculated points, the QA and QB. Then, because of multiplication and commutativity, they come to the same shared secret by multiplying the other side's public point with their own secret number. And that's it. They came to a shared secret, and they can use it for feeding some other algorithm like AES, or maybe just for encrypting the session key, whatever you want. That's not in the scope of this talk. So, if you want to look for yourself, and you are running a Unix-like operating system like Linux, Mac OS X, or something like that, you got the OpenSSL, which is a terrible library but neat utility. You just run this command, and it will show you available parameters of the curves. The list goes something like this, and as you can see, there are many SPCG approved curves, some NIST approved curves. If you are wondering what does the WTLS mean, it was a standard called wireless TLS, which is now superseded by WAP2. But it doesn't matter, the curves got standardized and are used and can be used in both certificate generation and signing. You can also have ECC-based certificates, or in TLS connections, the key exchange stage. Then, as I mentioned, when you are really paranoid, you can use some alternative curves, and I think they are really interesting. First one is the curve 25519, which is well suited for key exchange. And then we have the birational equivalent twisted Edwards curve, once again, over the prime field 255/19. It's actually 2 raised to the power 255 minus 19. But you know, this naming just everyone uses, so we'll stick to that. These curves were studied, and the cryptography primitives developed using them. All the work was done by Bernstein and his team. The current standard drafts, I would say, deal mainly with key exchange under the name X25519 and EDSA for the authentication and signing and things like that. So we got here. Now we know what is available, why we use it, and now we should get to the part how to use it. And this was the part when on my last talk people were already hard asleep, and I don't see anyone being asleep, so that's cool.
The better audience here.
Oh, awesome. Also, I don't want to dive into the details here, but I think we should look at how we can leverage the ECC if we are programmers. Are there any programmers here? Somebody? Oh, not many, but at least some. Okay. First and foremost, OpenSSL. Although it's a really bad library, it's everywhere, so we have to live with it. It supports Eliptic-curve cryptography since version 098, which was released in July 2005. So for more than 10 years, you can actually use the stuff I was talking about before. And it's pretty simple, but it's not always simple. It also has many configuration options, and that's why you should not use it directly. If you want to play with the ECDSA algorithm, you just include the right header, which is called ECH, and use functions ECDSA underscore something. Generate key pair, sign, verify, you name it. It's really that simple. But, as I mentioned, you shouldn't do that. You should use some standardized protocol. Like, if you are using the TLS protocol, you can configure OpenSSL to use ECDSA for peer authentication, and you do it by setting a configuration string with the part ECDSA, I think is the second part of the string. So something ECDSA something means use a cipher suit and key exchange and everything, which uses ECDSA for peer authentication. For ECDH, the situation is basically the same. Once again, you get these functions, ECDH underscore something something, and you can generate the random private number, generate the public key point, do the key agreement, and then use the result. Once again, don't do it. If you're using TLS, you can tell the OpenSSL engine to use ECDH key exchange by providing the appropriate abbreviation in the configuration string, which is ECDH something. And that's it. So if you're using OpenSSL for doing TLS connections, module of those, module that certificate validation and things like that, it's pretty easy. I have an example here. With this configuration string, we are forcing the library to use ECDH for key exchange, ECDSA for peer authentication. That requires, of course, ECC-based certificate. And then there's a configuration of the symmetric cipher, which is 256 bits AES with convex countermode used for chaining the blocks together. And there's SHA-2 with 384 bits used for message authentication. That's it. That simple, as I said. But once again, there are many things you can configure, many things you can screw up. So beware. Now, and this may come as a surprise, I say it, we have to look at Microsoft implementation at the Cryptography API Next Generation, CNG for short. It fully supports elliptic-curve cryptography, the standardized part, since Windows Vista and since Windows Server 2008. What I find remarkable, Microsoft did really a good job here, because this library, although it has limited abilities, it uses same defaults. So even when you try to play with the algorithms directly, there are less things to screw than with OpenSSL. If you want to play with ECDSA, you just instantiate a provider of the ECDSA 256 algorithm, and that's it. The right curve chosen, right hashing function chosen, etc., etc. Pretty useful. But then again, don't do it. It has certain other aspects. For ECDH, basically the same. And once again, same defaults. So it's good, but still it's not there. If you want to use the connection-oriented, stream-oriented encryption, you set it up similarly to how it is done with OpenSSL, but you use some defined constant, where you say, basically, I want to use ECDHE, which is the ephemeral variant of the ECDH for key exchange, and ECDSA for peer authentication. Once again, this requires using ECC certificates. Oh, there was one question. I don't know how to use Galois counter mode with Microsoft CNG, but I guess somebody here will know, so maybe at the end, when you have some time for questions, you may answer that. So, the other OpenSSL-based library, which is getting its hype, or maybe it's over, I don't know. It's LibreSSL. It was forked from OpenSSL by OpenBSD folks in 2014. The good and bad thing is the API is the same. So you can use the same configuration strings. What is good with LibreSSL, the authors try to provide a new modern API which should be less prone to errors, which is called libTLS API. And this is important for you only if you are a programmer. If you are a user of such software, you are once again stuck with the same configuration strings, and if you use them wisely, there you go, you're using it. No need for any other action. With another implementation, the GNU implementation, GNU TLS, it's a bit younger. It's supported only for about 4 years, the whole Eliptic-curve cryptography primitives. And here the configuration strings are called priorities, which I think is more appropriate because the order does matter. The first match you get with your peer is the cipher suit you will use. So actually it should be called probably cipher suit order or priority in all the implementations which use this kind of configuration. And once again, if we show some example, we end up with something similar, maybe entirely the same as with OpenSSL and LibreSSL. Basically, it's the same. So once again, easy to use. There are some license restrictions because GNU-TLS I think is GPL version 3, so I personally wouldn't use it. That's a good point. Let's get to salt. NaCl pronounced salt. I was happy to see Philip mention that because nobody knows it. It's a cryptography primitives library developed by Daniel Bernstein, and its focus is on using strong cryptography properly. So you don't say, I want to use this algorithm for key exchange, this algorithm for something, etc., etc. You just say, I want to sign a message with a key. And the library has embedded information on what is considered secure right now and what is considered secure for the purpose you want to use it. So right now there is no support for the alternative curves I was talking about, but it's actually in the VCS, so it will be in the next release. If you want to play with twisted Edwards curves and the ED25519 based EDDSA, you can, because the code is already available in other applications, like in OpenBSD Signify, which is used for signing OpenBSD packages and verifying their integrity, or in the SuperCop benchmark tool released by Bernstein, which was actually the first release of these new algorithms. The main support LeJC ciphers and LeJC algorithms. The thing here is that Mr. Bernstein considers ECDSA and next approved curves as LeJC, so I think it depends on what you think about certain government organizations. There we are. We just finished with the libraries. You are probably full of it, so okay, I'm a programmer, I can use it, maybe it may help with some mobile applications. The libraries are a complete mess. Well, maybe I'll try to find something on the web and do it somehow, but, well, it will be hard. No, it won't be hard, because you can look at examples of how others use these libraries. And if you are not a programmer, you are, say, a systems administrator, it might be interesting for you that it's pretty easy to configure common services to use ECC. As this is OWASP meeting, originally some web application thing, we'll start with HTTP servers and try to cover some of them. I tried to look at 4 examples, and they have actually 2 things in common. First, you have to know that ECC is supported only in TLS. It's not supported in SSL 2 or 3. And anyway, you should disable SSL 2 and 3 for various other reasons. So this shouldn't be a problem. Let's get started with Apache HTTP server. I think it's still the most commonly used one, and it's got a long history of certain vulnerabilities in its mod SSL implementation. But anyway, everyone's using it. And it's a module that provides HTTPS support and other things, and provides it using the OpenSSL library. So you just have to load it and configure it. And configuration is that simple. You specify the configuration string, you enable required protocols, disable protocols we apply, and you are done. If you would use this configuration I provide here, you wouldn't be able to connect to the server with a browser that doesn't support ECDHE and ECDSA peer authentication. And of course, you have to use ECC-based certificates. So it's recommended to prefer these algorithms and then provide some fallbacks. You can write as many cipher suits as you want, but careful with that. There are websites which provide a current list of secure combinations of cipher suits for all major HTTP servers. I think it's Cryptography, something like that. We may look it up later on. But then again, you have to understand what you are doing. So don't just blindly copy the configuration. Think about it. Microsoft Internet Information Services. The ECC is supported as I mentioned earlier, in CNG, so it's fully supported since Windows Server 2008. It supports ECDHE with RSA certificates, which means only Eliptic-curve based key exchange is performed, but the peer authentication is done using RSA certificates, and with ECC certificates you can use both Eliptic-curve based key exchange and peer authentication. That's pretty cool. The only thing you have to configure is the preferences in the SSL secrecy or the policy. And honestly, I do not know where in the register it is, but I guess in this building there are a few people which may tell you where in the register you can find that. It should be easy, at least on the backend side. They wrote it is easy. Nginx, another one. Are you just using OpenSSL? So once again, you are stuck with good old configuration strings, but you have to write them in different configuration directives. The bad thing about Nginx is you have to explicitly enable given protocols. So if you install server, configure it, and then a new standard called TLS version 1.3 comes out, and you forget about that server, just imagine that there's some big vulnerability in TLS version 1.2 when you are using ECC, you're screwed because you have to enable it manually. So think about that when deploying Nginx and trying to use the ECC. Lighting. I'm starting to repeat myself here. Again, it's linked against OpenSSL. Again, you are just specifying the configuration strings, which is called SSL.cypherlist here. The good thing here is all protocols are enabled by default. You just have to disable the misbehaving ones, which means SSL version 2 and SSL version 3. And there we are. We configured 4 major HTTP servers for using ECC, and I think nobody got hurt here. So it's certainly there. There's no problem with that. What about the client support? We are on the web, so we are doing all HTTP clients. I chose Firefox, Google Chrome, and Microsoft Internet Explorer. Why? Well, you know, there are many minor browsers, and nobody cares about them. I think this should be representative. Anyway, the underlying libraries are usually the same, as you will see. With Mozilla Firefox, it uses Netscape Portable Runtime and Network Security Services libraries, which support ECC at least since 2009. It is really hard to dig through NSS archives, and so I don't know the exact date or exact version. It's virtually impossible to locate it today. But all builds from last at least 5 years fully support elliptic-curve cryptography for both key exchange and peer authentication. So that's cool. We got at least 4 web servers, and there you go, 1 web browser which can actually connect to them. The good thing is there's no manual configuration needed on the client side. Everything is configured on the server, and the client either connects or just the connection fails, and it should work. Google Chrome. Funny thing, people spend lots of money on developing a new browser. They spend lots of money on creating a new rendering engine, JavaScript engine, and you name it, whatever. But they spend no money on implementing a new secure backend. They're using the NSS as the Firefox is using. So once again, it's fully supported because it uses the same backend. All builds from last 5 years should work on the box. And once again, there's no manual configuration needed. So that's cool. What about Microsoft Internet Explorer? You know, earlier versions of Internet Explorer may support, partially support ECC. But as I found out, it is recommended to use version 9 or later, because that's when it got full support. You know, the backend library, the CNG, got its support in Windows Vista and Windows Server 2008, so it was there, but there were mixed recommendations on backend sites regarding its usage with older Internet Explorer, so just stick to version 9 or later. The good thing here is, once again, no manual configuration is needed. So you just fire up your browser, connect to the web server, which has configured its support for ECC, the exchange and peer authentication, and you're using it. So it's a reality on the web. As you can see, HTTP isn't a problem. You just have to configure it properly or obtain proper certificates for it. So, what about other protocols? You know, the web is not everything. There are other things. I looked at two major protocols or standards. The first used for connecting to Unix-like servers, the secure shell. The second one for exchanging encrypted and signed messages, the OpenPGP standard. For this secure shell, it is used for remote server administration, and it supported the standardized ECC since version 5.7, which is about almost 5 years old. The thing is, it wasn't enough, and you know, the people behind OpenSSH are from OpenBSD background, which means they are paranoid. So, as they didn't trust the NIST approved curves, they worked hard to implement Daniel J. Bernstein's twisted efforts curve based EDDSA, and it's supported since December 2013, since version 6.5, which was released almost 2 years ago. And the thing here is, they do not trust the NIST approved curves so badly that they made EDDSA the default for both server keys and client user keys. So today, if you have a new OpenSSH installation and you fire it up, it first it generates the server keys and it generates EDDSA keys. If you are using the latest OpenSSH as your client and you want to generate a new key pair, once again, you will get EDDSA as the default option. If you want to specify the type, you can see you just say it's the type ED25519, some comment and some power into the key, and there you go. You are extremely alternative. You're using alternative elliptic curves. Isn't it awesome? So then there's the worst part of my talk, OpenPGP. It's a huge mess, but it works. It's not a huge mess implementation-wise because we've got the great GNU-PG implementation, which actually does the things quite right. But the standardization is a complete mess. Right now, OpenPGP, the standards, only support standardized ECC, which means ECDSA, ECDH, variant of key exchange and things like that. And using the NIST curves and breakable curves is that simple. You just generate a new key, say you want to use it, and basically all other peers will be able to read and work with that. It may be used both for signing and encryption. Now things get more interesting because, as I said, there are people who are really paranoid and want to use alternative curves. So there is an experimental EDDSA support, and by experimental I mean there is a draft of the standard how to use EDDSA in OpenPGP. The draft, I think, is actually about 3 years old. The latest third version is from August this year, and apart from the format and from how to use the EDDSA, it allocates a new ID for the algorithm, and I think it will be because there's no other standardization process with an OpenBGP going on right now. It will expire in February, so let's see if it is the final one, I hope. Then we've got the expired draft standard by the IETF about the EDDSA itself. This standard, there was still some confusion on how to call the algorithm, so it's called EDDSA ED25519. In the current draft, it's called only EDDSA, and it should become RFC, which specifies what the EDDSA is, the test vectors, how to implement the algorithm properly, etc., etc. Actually, although it is the first draft submitted, it's heavily based on the previous 4 drafts of the original standard draft, and I think it is nearing approval. I don't know if any of you is following the process or the IETF mailing list. It's I think it's more about politics and less about technical issues, but that's just how it goes. So, let's say we understand all of this, yet we want to try it. Let's do that. There's full support in the newest GNU PG. I think the versions 2.1.2, 2.1.3 both support it. You just have to enable expert mode and use full generate key option action actually. It will ask you what kind of key you want. You say you want to use ECC, but sign only. And this is important. As I mentioned the standards, I was dealing only with EDDSA, which means authentication, signing, message, signature verification. No key exchange yet. It is planned, but no work has been done yet. So you have to select that you want to use ECC for signing only, and then you can select curve 25519. As you already know, it's actually not curve 25519. It's the twisted address curve variant. It's the other one, the birational equivalent to this one. And so you select it and open the GNU PG will warn you that it's not part of the standard yet, but you say, hey, use it anyway, and it will generate the key immediately. The good thing about the ED25519 EDDSA is, if you generate your keys, it's fast. It's really fast. You just need to get, say, 256 bits of entropy, which is readily available at the urandom, for example, on Linux, and voila, that's your key. No further processing here. It's just a random number, which is pretty cool. And yet you get 128 bits of security. So there we are. I think we can come to certain conclusions that by using ECC wisely, you can get your security parameter bigger, which is a good thing. You can get your handshakes faster and smaller, and best of all, you can make sure that the future will be pretty twisted. That's it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask some. I actually have a question for you, if you don't come up with any other. How do we call the 2 curves I just drawn here? Come on, guys. Nobody. Okay.
I have a question. I have heard that the elliptic curves are much more sensitive to quality of random generator than, for example, RSA. Is it true, or are there any gotchas with elliptic curves?
As I said about 2 minutes ago, if you want to generate a private key, you just need that amount of random bits. So yes, it's up to you how random they are. If you choose a good source of randomness, you have a good and secure key. If you, let's say, choose something, I don't know, why would you wouldn't use a good source of randomness? But then again, we saw the PlayStation fiasco, so yes, they are more sensitive, but you can handle that, I think, really easily, because you just need to obtain that amount of random bits and be sure that they do not leak. That's it.
How about the computational cost? You haven't covered it in the
Yeah, that's a good question. There are many myths on the web regarding the computational cost. The best one I found was ECC is much more CPU and memory intensive than plain old RSA. Nothing could be more wrong. It is actually pretty efficient, and that's why it is good choice, for example, for embedded development. Many devices, embedded devices use electric cryptography these days, and it is possible to implement even in, say, Cortex M3 processors, so it is something cheap which you will use for playing the class. Any other questions? Okay, so I'll give you the answers. On the left-hand side, you can see the Montgomery curve. You can tell it by this small gap between the negative and positive part easily. And on the right-hand side, that's Jacobian curve. That actually was the only curve I was able to plot without any hacking, because otherwise plotting elliptic curves is a real pain. Don't try to do that at home. So okay, guys, thank you. If you want to learn something more, there are some references here. You can look at the standards or at the standards tests for yourself. It's sometimes really spicy reading, but you might enjoy that. So that's it. Thank you.